What's up, gente? Welcome back to Stan Sports after another week of Champions League. And we saw three Spanish teams lose: Sevilla, Atleti, and Barça, and Real Madrid, as always, picking up the slack and picking up the 3 points. Let's start with Sevilla, of course, because finally it's happened. Julian Lopetegui has been sacked officially. It was his last game as Sevilla manager. They lost at home 4-1 to Borussia Dortmund. I mean, they've had a terrible start to the season, and let's be honest, this hasn't started this season. It was at the back end of last one, where they were kind of tipped by everyone, including me, to be the only team that can fight Real Madrid to the title. But finished very disappointing in the last 10 rounds of that season. Couldn't get a win away from home. Disappointing. And, in the summer, of course, losing some of their best players like Jules Koundé, Diego Carlos, Lucas Ocampos, who was transferred for 4 million euros, guys. I mean, the disrespect. Sevilla's probably best player for the last few years, certainly the best forward option that they had. And they go and replace him with Isco. Great player, of course, lots of talent, but someone that hasn't had regular football for 3 years. And it's not the same player that Ocampos is. He's not going to be dribbling past people and creating chances. He is very much of the mold of players that Sevilla has, like Ivan Rakitic. And in the back, they signed Marçal, who's still injured. I think he's just about to come back. And Zouanzou, the young Frenchman, that, it's not going to help a young defender coming into a situation where, there's a whole new defense. Gudel's been playing there. They've just been very, very frustrating to watch. Sevilla, I think the schedule didn't help at the start of the season, playing the likes of Barça, Atletico Madrid, likes of Man City in the Champions League, conceding goals like crazy. They turned around the last 3 rounds of La Liga. They're unbeaten. They picked up points, but, the writing was already on the wall. And you could say, Julian Lopetegui, knowing in the summer that they're going to sell his best players, maybe that was the best time for him to go, to leave, because, evidently there was something in the dressing room that wasn't working out. So why not leave in the summer with your head held high, leave behind the great legacy of winning the Europa League, of getting your team consistently into the Champions League. Julian Lopetegui decided to stay to the ship, and he's been thrown under the bus. Let's be honest here. I think Monchi has to take a lot of the blame for what's happened. We've praised him over the years for his genius, for signing players, for basically no money, turning them into superstars, and then making a profit for the club and achieving things while at the club. But he hasn't been at it. I don't know if it has to do with the finances of the club. Maybe it's something upstairs on top of Monchi, but certainly it wasn't only Lopetegui's fault. But of course, as we always say in football, it's easier to sack a manager than sack the whole squad. So when something's not happening for you, when the results aren't coming, when Sevilla is on their last place of the group in the Champions League, it was time to push the button. That's what's happening. We're hearing that Sampaoli is going to make a return. He was already at Sevilla. A bit controversial his last time at Sevilla, but let's see if he can come in, stay to the ship, and maybe get Sevilla into the European spots, because at the moment that's the most realistic thing. Maybe try to secure that third spot in the Champions League group and get at least to the Europa League. At the moment, they're sitting there with 1 point out of 3 games, and they will only have to deal with Copenhagen in order to get there. So very realistic. And then, in the Europa League, you never know. They might get a chance to go far. So, yeah, Julian Lopetegui, no longer Sevilla manager. I think Sevilla fans will have some good memories of him, but ultimately not good enough for a club of that stature. Barca losing another away game after the loss in Munich, this time in Milan against Inter. And, I was expecting this, to be honest. The international break was very, very tough for Barcelona. They lost Jules Koundé and Ronald Araujo. Those 2 guys are key parts of the defense. No matter how many players they signed this summer, these 2 guys are, potentially world class or thereabouts. And when you take them out of the equation, Then you're having to play players like Eric Garcia with Christensen in the center of defense, Marcos Alonso on the left, Sergio Roberto for the first time this season, something that I think Xavi's been trying to avoid. So inevitably Barcelona was going to concede chances, and from the first half Inter had a few, to be fair, a few shots outside the box that Ter Stegen was able to get, but then Çalhanoğlu with a great effort, and in Barca on the other end didn't really get any clear-cut opportunities in the second half. A bit of a push, controversy. They had a goal disallowed, rightfully so. Ansu Fati handling the ball, but then Denzel Dumfries for a very similar offense in the box. The referee somehow and the VAR not awarding Barca a penalty. I think Barca should have got a penalty and possibly got away with it a little bit here with a draw. But ultimately they lost the game. And I think it's showing some defensive frailties that they're going to have throughout this month. It's possibly coming at the worst time because Barca is going to play El Clásico, as we know, in 2 weeks. Of course, they have the return leg with Inter. They're hosting Villarreal in La Liga. They also play a very informed Atletico, and to top it off at the end of the month, they're playing Bayern Munich. So very, very tough month, and I think those 2 losses in defense are going to be crucial, and they're going to be conceding goals this month. It will be damage limitation. I think they will have to be very productive on the other end. Lewandowski will have to work his magic and score a few goals. But it just shows that Barcelona's second string team is nowhere near as good as the first one. And with Ronald Araujo undergoing surgery and possibly missing the World Cup, this might be a bigger problem than Barca is expecting. Gerard Piqué made an appearance in the second half. It was his second appearance this season after seeing him in that game against Mallorca, where already Barca showed, some kind of weaknesses after the international break. So, yeah, tough days ahead for Barca. But let's see what Xavi is made of and how he can handle these obstacles along the way. And speaking of losses, Atletico Madrid lost to Club Brugge. Club Brugge, amazing record, 3 wins out of 3 in their Champions League group, topping the group. And one of the main reasons behind it is a Spaniard, Ferran Jutgla. Remember him from Barca, 23-year-old. He signed for the Belgian side this summer, and he's had an amazing start this season, scoring and assisting in the Champions League, in the local league, and Club Brugge, deservedly topping the group without a goal conceded, 7 goals scored, and 9 points out of 3 games. Who expected the Belgians to be on top of this group with the likes of Porto, Leverkusen, and Atleti currently sitting on the last spot with just 3 points? Colchoneros have their work cut out in this group, and it's very, very crucial what they do next week against Club Brugge at home. It's now a must-win if it wasn't before, because another loss or a draw will make it very, very complicated. They still have to go to Porto. And they just are not impressing from the start of the season. They paper over the crack with a win against Sevilla in La Liga, but Sevilla at the moment, I don't think you can give any credit to a team that's beating them. And to be fair to Simeone, he changed it up in this game. He went to a very traditional, from a few years ago, 4-4-2, pushed Axel Witsel in the midfield, something that a lot of people have been crying out for. Finally, Jimenez and Savic in the center of defense, but something seems to be wrong with Jimenez. He's not 100% fit, and it was shown again in this particular game. But they just couldn't finish their dinner. In the first half, Morata with a few chances, Griezmann missing that penalty in the second half. Unlucky as well to get a goal disallowed, but very, very efficient, the Belgians, with their chances. And as we said, Jutgla, the standout. I don't know. There's been a lot of discussion in the media. What's going to be the future of Simeone? Is this the end of the road? I don't know. I think there's still time to turn it around. They're playing Girona at home this weekend. Good game for them to win and bounce back. But then, going away to Atletico. Also, they have a visit to Benito Villamarin. So they need to buckle up their ideas and start winning some games. As always, the most consistent in Europe is Real Madrid, picking up a very routine win against Shakhtar Donetsk. These two teams seem to be playing each other every single year in the Champions League, but yeah, the Blancos bouncing back after that draw in La Liga on Sunday against Osasuna. Benzema back into the squad. Modric was on the bench. Good to see that he's also kind of recovering from that injury from the international break. But they didn't even have to get to his services. Rodrigo was the man of the match, deservedly so, scoring a goal, providing an assist for Vinicius' goal. And we saw that front three that's impressing since the start of the season with the two Brazilians and Benzema. Unlucky for the Frenchman not to get a goal. You could see he's hungry to get that goal, missing that penalty on the weekend. And there's been a lot made in the press that he's missed 3 now against the same goalkeeper, Herrera from Osasuna. If that plays on his mind, I do think he needs a goal to kind of get the confidence back and get sharp again, especially before El Clasico coming up here in 10 days. So Real Madrid sitting pretty on top of the table in their Champions League group, as we expected. 3 wins out of 3, with the likes of Shakhtar, RB Leipzig and Celtic. You expected them to do it. And, one more win in the next game in Poland, I think it's where Shakhtar plays in Warsaw, would mean that Real Madrid can basically rotate for the last 2 games of the group and keep their players fresh, of course, before a very busy schedule, a World Cup. We all know that this year is going to be a little bit crazy, but as we said, Real Madrid waving the flag, and the other 3 Spanish teams unfortunately losing and limiting their chances of going through. Hopefully at least one of them would make it through, otherwise we're going to see a very busy Europa League with Spanish teams. Speaking of the Europa League, 2 Spanish teams in action tonight. Real Betis traveling to Rome to play AS Roma. What a game, what a European classic that's going to be. Roma, of course, desperate to climb up the table in their group, and Betis sitting in first. Real Sociedad is going to make the long trip to Sheriff. They're also top in their group, but with Man United going to Cyprus, playing Omonia, and expected to beat them. Real Sociedad needs to also add another 3 points. And of course, in the Europa Conference League, Villarreal is hosting Austria Vienna, looking to get another win, and as we said, with Real Madrid possibly rotate in the last 2 games of their group. This weekend, match day 8 of La Liga is upon us with some standout games. Of course, Sevilla against Atletico. Watch out, Stan Sports will be on site at the stadium doing a match day vlog, so keep it locked on here. Real Sociedad against Villarreal, the Champions League derby. Real Madrid plays in a Madrid derby away at Getafe, and Barça is hosting Celta Vigo. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about what's happening at Sevilla? Was Julian Lopetegui the culprit for the downfall of the club? Let me know, Barça fans, are you worried about the club possibly not going through the Champions League? What will be the ramifications if that happens? What would that mean to Xavi and his team? Atleti fans, I want to hear from you as well. How do you feel about Simeone and what's happening at the club? How can they improve things? And Blancos fans, let me know if you're feeling confident about going all the way again this season. As I said, this weekend we're going to be in Seville and we're going to watch Sevilla against Athletic Club. Guys, don't forget to like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Stan Sports for more La Liga content, and we're going to see you soon. Ciao.